Like, he's really good at getting the players to believe, I want the best for you. I'm going to get the best out of you. I'm going to show you some tangible results. If you go along with me, I guarantee you we're going to have success together. I think this guy's really good at that. Tim, you know this more than I do because you have friends all over the country. Isn't this amazing? Like, this something about this has resonated in baseball. And I'm not saying resonated good, bad, but just this is generating an incredible amount of websites, doing reporting, and opinion pieces are being written about this. I mean, the entire game is sort of a buzz with this news. And I understand why. It's a very different hire than probably any team has ever made. I think Fangraphs called it the most interesting potential hire in decades in baseball. And you know what? Like, you and I'm sure we'll dig into some more specifics, but I'm never opposed. If that's how this thing gets framed, to me, that's a point in favor of hiring this guy. Is do something interesting, do something different. It's okay to try new stuff. It is always risky when it's this important of a position to try something that's very different. But I can't imagine it's a terrible thing if, maybe the most analytical baseball website in the world is saying the most interesting managerial hire in decades.
As it became clear that the Giants were focused on Vitello and that he had not yet agreed to the deal, there was just like this, fervor. It's like he's Kevin Durant in Oklahoma City or something like that. And that tells me, one, you would rather be chasing a guy who causes emotions when he leaves, right? You would not want the guy that nobody cares about. Also tells me that this guy's got something, right? There's something to him that people latch on to or are against. I've heard, obviously there's a lot of stuff about the way that team behaves on the field. It's in your face team. It's a team that I've heard that like gets on opponents from the dugout. I don't know if he does, but I do think like some of that stuff, like from the Drew Gilbert, experience. Well, I say specifically, David, when we saw the impact that Drew Gilbert had on this team in the middle of the season, the energy, the wackiness. Did you feel like, hey, Buster really loves this and he's going to want to kind of explore where this came from and maybe import some of it to his team?
I think what Buster loved, and isn't it really interesting? I don't know if ironic is the right word, but Buster was the least of that player of all time.
Yeah.
Like, Buster was the least of that, of any great player maybe in history, like the most stoic, unemotional on the field player you could ever come up with. But he did love that about Drew Gilbert. He did. Maybe not. He didn't. I don't think he cared about the specifics of it, but I think he loved how that energy, enthusiasm translated over not just to his own performance, but that his teammates definitely seemed to. The Giants played their best baseball when that kid started, being a part of it. And one thing Buster told me early on in his tenure, and this was related to something else. I won't go into the whole backstory, but the gist of the story was basically like, why are we? And it wasn't like he wasn't saying this with like hate or vitriol. He's like, aren't we trying to beat those teams? Why do we care whether they like us or not? Why they really shouldn't want to like us. And it was kind of in regard to like his new role and whether he was going to get along. People were asking him questions about how are you going to get to know all these people, your peers, and you need a working relationship with people. But I think he pushed back on that. Like, well, what do you mean? Like, you want me to go have cocktails at their house? Like, we're trying to beat them. Like, why do I need to be friends with all those guys? And I think that is one of Buster's sort of underlying foundational beliefs about how to run a franchise is we do it our way. We have a very specific sort of identity and plan for how we want to play, the kind of team we want to have. Can be fluid. That doesn't mean you're set in your ways as to like which players you pick to be on your team, but have sort of an overall organizational plan and belief system. And then on top of that, like, we're going after people. We're here to compete every night. Everybody says this cliche about the long season. It's true. If you were like emotionally burning so hot, could you last 162 games? There's truth to that. But I think Buster pushes back and says, in my own career, I was focused and totally poured myself into every single game that we played. And every day I came to the ballpark, it was all business for me. And all business looks like different things. It can be Buster's all business, or it can be Drew Gilbert's, which is a different version of that. Like, he's totally invested in every game with everything he has. And Buster believes that that's possible in this sport. And so I think that's one of the reasons why he's made this hire.
Yeah, and I guess I can interpret it a little bit, and you can disagree or agree, is that maybe that's part of what he'd not love about the end of the Bob Melvin tenure. I'm not saying anything bad about Bob. Bob's professional manager, did a long time, manager of the year several times, but maybe he kind of identified he wanted a little more oomph there, a little more. Maybe it's a little less comfortable in that clubhouse, certainly after losses, certainly after a bunch of losses, certainly after a bunch of home losses. Again, I don't want to read too much into it, but I think he wants a little disruption of that. And it isn't just disruption, because when you're winning, you don't want people to feel uncomfortable, but you want to win first.
Yeah.
Would you agree with some of that thinking?
I do. I agree with that. And it shouldn't be, this shouldn't turn into like a referendum against Bob.
No,
it shouldn't be like let's just dump on Bob. Because Buster agrees with you. Buster does not think that Bob Melvin is an idiot or is not a good manager. Like, he doesn't think that at all. But I do believe that, especially in the world that the Giants are living in with the Dodgers, especially these days where your main rival is just so set up for long-term success and has these incredible inherent advantages over everybody else in the game. I think Buster really truly believes that part of how you combat that, got to get better players. Buster talks about that all the time. You see it in his actions, signing Adames, trading for Devers. Like, we need more talent on this roster to go head to head with those guys. And I think he also feels like you need to have an edgy mentality. You got to take it personally. You have to really believe that you can take those guys down. And so I think that you and I have talked about this over the last many years, about how just the very specific fact that the Dodgers are the Giants' rivals and you have to play them and beat them every year, and where they are as a franchise, I think it's framed so much of what the Giants have done or tried to do over the last few years. And I think this, in a way, is kind of part of that.
Give us a gist of it, of what they're saying about someone who's going to be brand new to Giants fandom. It's going to be very interesting in the first few weeks of spring training. And like, what would these people tell you? What are they telling you about him?
One of my college buddies' son was the team manager there. So different than being a player. So the point from the dad was, all those kids are really going to miss him. He's a spectacular communicator and relationship builder. He treated my son like a 5-star recruit, even though he is a lowly student manager, true leader. So then the father, a couple dads of players who I just happen to know, I asked them about it. Passionate about play, wears his heart on his sleeve, aggressive, be a fire plug in the dugout. Then another comment, total players coach, fiery and devoted to his players. He is good. So I think, part of what they've been successful is those guys in that program absolutely go to war for this dude. Whatever it is, those things are really hard to, like, how do you put your finger on those qualities? The players who have played for him, they love that guy and they play passionately and hard for him, and they work out. One thing you hear consistently about Tennessee's program is the incredible gains that everybody makes in terms of strength and conditioning. And Vitello has done an excellent job of getting buy-in on, we need to be bigger, faster, stronger. We need to throw harder. We need to swing harder. We need to be more physical than our opponents. And maybe that's harder to do at the big league level. And that takes a big support staff at this level too. But I guarantee you're going to hear that when he's at the podium. I've never met the guy. I guarantee you he's going to talk about that, because I think that's been a big part of their success at Tennessee, is getting buy-in on all the other stuff, not just the game day bravado and spirit. And we're going to turn this place into the toughest place to play in college baseball, and we're going to show it with our body language, and our fans are going to be bought in. All that I think is probably true too, but I think he's a big believer in what happens in the off season and behind the scenes, setting you up for success.
What's the buy-in going to be?
Yeah, it's a big question. I think it's going to be, I think I've talked to several of these guys. One of the themes of the conversation was about this guy, and there definitely was like a little sort of shock, I think, initially when his name was out there from those players. And I think the shock turned into true excitement from the players that I've talked to. Like, hey, we're going to give this guy, he sounds really cool. And I think part of it is Gilbert has been going around the room. I think Gilbert has really done a good job of selling this guy to his teammates. I think Gilbert's really pumped him up, and I think that's gotten everybody. That's been a sort of a small factor in all this, is Gilbert's gotten them excited about this. Ultimately, I agree with you. Like, they're still established big leaguers still need to be, they have to be shown that he's the real deal. Like, they'll buy in for spring training. I'm sure is going to be super enthusiastic, and I guarantee you Vitello is going to be flying around in the offseason to meet some of these guys, and he'll probably, I would not be surprised at all if he's going to go to the Dominican and see Adames and see Devers and sit down with them, and sounds like that kind of guy. But ultimately, the players need to be shown that, hey, this guy really truly has my best interests at heart. And if they get shown that, then I think the buy-in becomes no problem. And that's where I think this guy, I don't want to turn this into, you planted the Gabe Kapler seed. And again, I'm with you. Gabe did a lot of good things for the Giants. He did. But Gabe's relationship building struggled at times.
Yeah.
And I think there was a lack of belief from some corners of that locker room of, is this guy really in it for me, or is he in it for himself, or does he really want me to be? I think Gabe just struggled to get that. And that's what this guy sounds to me like his strengths are. Like, he's really good at getting the players to believe, I want the best for you. I'm going to get the best out of you. I'm going to show you some tangible results. If you go along with me, I guarantee you we're going to have success together. I think this guy's really good at that.